So get ready, Evan. You're about to go viral.
Hello everyone and welcome to yet another video. In this video I'm going to be taking a look at the movie Thanksgiving, and before I get too far into this review, there's a couple things that I want to talk about. This video is going to be very much kind of off the cuff, kind of freestyle, not much going into it, but we're also going to be taking a look at the movie Thanksgiving. Why? Because of this one comment that was on my Talk to Me video, because I don't know, I just enjoy watching terrible movies maybe, and we'll see if this is any better than Talk to Me. I mean, it doesn't have to do much, but we'll see how it goes. But Thanksgiving, it also came out in 2023. It has a IMDb rating of 6.4 out of 10 and a popularity of 141, which if we go back and take a look at the Talk to Me rating, based off of the IMDb rating, Talk to Me has a 7.1 as compared to Thanksgiving 6.4. But we'll just see about that. And when it comes to the cast, there is a lot of different cast members in this movie. I mean, you could take a look at the cast list right here. It's a lot. There's a lot of different people in this movie. The main group we kind of follow is these kids, with that main group of cast being Jessica, Bobby. We also have Scuba, who Scuba is just his nickname because people don't want to go by his full name. Then we have Gabby, we have Evan and Yulia, and this is just kind of the main group right here. We also have like the couple other side people with the sheriff, and of course Jessica's family is a big part of this, but they don't come up too much in this movie. It's mainly focused around this group of kids right here. So as previously stated, this review is going to be kind of off the cuff, so bear with me. But this movie starts off with, as we see the sheriff of the town shows up to enjoy Thanksgiving with some friends, and we get the sense that he's been having a rough time because his wife left him and it's Thanksgiving time. So we only bring that up because this comes up later, so remember this for now. But immediately after that, we cut to a completely different family in a completely different setting, and this is Jessica's family, as we can see that she's attending her Thanksgiving dinner with her family and her boyfriend Bobby. And we also find out that Bobby is the star pitcher. He's gonna make it big. He's going to the big leagues. While at the same time, we find out that the reason his family is so wealthy is because they own the local supermarket. And due to the fact that they own the local supermarket and always want more money, they have decided to start the good old tradition of having the store be open on Thanksgiving, because it's all about them dollar bills, yo. And so of course everybody's lined up outside of this right way to be able to go in and get their gifts, and everyone's already freaking out. And we also find out that the reason that we saw that other family from the beginning is because the man of the household there works at the right way, so he's got to make his way down there because it's time to get it working. Jessica and Bobby also leave their family Thanksgiving so they can go hang out with their friends because they're gonna go see a movie. Only instead of going to go see a movie, they decide to stop by the right way because they need a new phone. And of course, since Jessica is the daughter of the person who owns the place, she gets them in early, which I'm sure you can guess just makes everybody super ecstatic. And to go ahead and fill you in on what the next couple 30 seconds to 5 minutes of this movie is going to be like, it can all be summed up in this one South Park clip.
Grab it, Rebecca, grab it!
The reason I bring that up is because everybody absolutely loses their mind over the promise that they might be able to get a waffle maker. And in just this scene of the Black Friday Thanksgiving shopping that's going on, at least 3 people die. One of those even being Amanda, who was the wife of the guy who had to go into work. And this is basically the reason why this movie happens, as Evan is recording everything on his phone, and we even see that Bobby gets his arm broken somehow by somebody stepping on it. And now we're back to present day, which is almost a year later, where in light of the tragedy that happened almost a year ago, they have decided to do the exact same thing, only this time they're going to hire a couple more security guards to prevent everything that happened. And of course we see that the husband of Amanda is, of course, protesting everything outside of the store, but it's fine because the father gave back to charity and even started his own fundraiser thing, so everything's just fine. And of course, Bobby has been absolutely AWOL since that incident happened because due to his absolutely shattered arm at the hands of somebody who randomly stepped on it, he had a career-ending injury, so he has been nowhere near anybody for an entire year. But none of that matters because we find out that Jessica's family is going to shoot a nice little family scene where they get to have the commercial for their upcoming Thanksgiving sale, only to find out that the place that they were going to shoot the commercial in has been ransacked. Even the axe that was on the wall has gone missing. Jessica has also wasted absolutely no time in moving on from Bobby as she's now dating a guy named Ryan. As she goes to meet her friends at the local diner, she sees who appears to be Bobby walking out of the diner, which, remember, he was gone for an entire year. There's no way that he would come back to the town. But they have this nice little lunch at this diner, and they all get tagged in some Instagram post with a table set for all of them who are involved in the Right Way incident. We also have our first murder death of the movie by the John Carver figure, where it's one of the ladies who was also a very unpleasant person in the whole Right Way incident. I mean, she was basically one of the ones who was trying to egg everyone on and making a big deal about what was going on. And you may be asking yourself, in what way does John Carver get rid of the first victim in this movie? Well, if you guess getting cut in half by a dumpster, you'd be right. Because if there's one thing I know about dumpsters is every time those lids close, they have enough power to apparently sever spines and ligaments and everything in between. So if you're ever near a dumpster, you better watch that lid. And the lower half of this person was somehow posed on top of the Right Way logo on the front of the store, which means that the person who put that half there had to carry the half of this body on top of this giant building. So don't know how exactly they managed to do that, but they are definitely a freak of nature to be able to do that. But after this incident, Jessica and her friends begin to meet with the police as they all have to give statements, and Jessica begins to talk to Bobby again, and we get all this whole garbage relationship stuff that is really just here to fluff out the movie a little bit, but not too much happens. They just go over discussing basically who they think did it, why they think it's happening, and we see more insight to who this random killer is as he's now going to go after the security guard who ran away from the incident when it first initially happened. And in keeping up with the absurdity of some of the deaths in this movie, he gets killed by an egg beater. I mean, the egg beater's not what does him in. What does him in is the fact that he loses his head during this struggle, but I think the egg beater was definitely an interesting choice to start it off. I also have to go ahead and point out this shot right here because oh boy is it going to frustrate me later. But a whole full-scale search party gets started due to the fact that Jessica and her friends get tagged in yet another photo. Only that time this photo contains the severed head of the security guard and the severed top torso of the woman from the diner. More suspicion is raised on Ryan shortly afterwards while Jessica is going through the security camera footage because the security camera footage was deleted to try to avoid any type of lawsuits or any type of legal repercussions, and she sees that Ryan was actually dapping up the other security guard, the security guard who died in the incident. And upon giving the information that Ryan was dapping up one of the security guards at the Right Way to the police, they explained that Ryan never said that he knew Doug, which raises even more suspicion on him. We are also very shortly introduced to two more of the people who were involved in the Right Way trampling, who were egging everybody on, only for them to very quickly be dispatched of because they were literally a nothing point to this movie. And so after Tweedledee and Tweedledope get absolutely destroyed, we now cut to Evan, who's very upsetty because he doesn't get to play football, but he's fine like 10 minutes later. The quickest turnaround I've ever seen in my life. And speaking of quickest turnaround, while they're all in the safety of the high school, Evan and Gabby end up getting abducted by the John Carver character. And I'd like to go ahead and point out this absolutely ridiculous hiding spot that Jessica has found here. This cartoon-esque hiding spot where, oh look, I'm also just a mannequin head. Like, yeah, they are kind of hidden behind some of them, but you're telling me that they can't see this person on the other side of the counter here? I mean, I get the eye holes and the mask are pretty small, but come on, man.
I can't see fucking shit out of this thing.
And so after managing to escape, Jessica of course has to talk to the police, and Bobby and Ryan of course have to have their bickering, and we find out why Ryan was talking to Doug, and it's because he was wanting to buy Adderall. What a thrilling conclusion to this situation. Also, Yuri's mob boss father over here shows up and he's like, we're going to Florida. So now instead of having all three of them together, we have now split the group into even smaller sections. Scuba actually has a pretty good idea at the same time though. He manages to go and get himself armed at one of their, I don't know if it's a friend's house, but it's a dude who owns a lot of guns. And he goes and gets himself a pistol, and on his way to go make sure his girl is okay, all on FaceTime, guess who shows up? That's right, John Carver, and it's not to carve the Thanksgiving turkey. But in good news, Scuba and Jessica managed to get there in time to save her. Only now John Carver has her held at knife point. But luckily, Scuba's got a gun, right? Well, he left the safety on the gun, so this allows John Carver enough time to, now bear with me here, throw Yuri at a table saw, which cuts off her fingers and proceeds to cut through the middle of her abdomen. Now there's multiple things wrong with this. One, most saws like that have a built-in feature where if there's any pressure applied to it, it immediately falls through. So maybe this extremely wealthy mob boss man decided to get a back market table saw or something, but it's usually supposed to automatically click down. But on top of that, she just falls on top of it. Like, I understand it cut through her hand, but instead of trying to fall to the side or just keep your upper body off the table, she just goes, oh no, this seems like a perfect place for me to lay down, and proceeds to lay down on the saw. This one is 100% on her, and I don't see in any universe where this death was technically caused by John Carver. So now, rightly so, Jessica's father has decided that they're not going to be open for Thanksgiving, but they are still going to participate in the parade, even if it is just to lure out the killer, which I'm sure all of us will find that this is going to go just well. But hey, remember the guy who gave them the gun? Well, he also gives Jessica a ring. This ring is important because it comes up later. And the parade is going just fine until we see that Rebecca's husband decides, oh my god, he's jumping out in front of the parade. It must be because he's going to kill them all, right? Well, no, in actuality, it's because he's there to protest the fact that they were open on Thanksgiving, which led to the death of his wife. So I guess nothing bad is going to happen on the Thanksgiving parade. Well, that is until a rather creepy clown that just so happens to be walking in the parade. Why is there a clown in the parade? I don't know. But he proceeds to announce his presence by chopping off the head at the front of the parade. And by chopping off the head, I mean chopping off the head of the parade. Also due to the fact that he was there when the Black Friday massacre, trampling, whatever you want to call it, happened. So even if you're just there, you're also getting it too, buddy. But now they're filing in all of the important people, that being Jessica's dad, Scuba, Jessica, and her stepmom, into the car, and they're gonna get out of there. Only before the creepy clown manages to hijack said car and take them to his secret hideout. And I'm sure I don't have to explain to you that the creepy clown's secret hideout is actually John Carver's secret hideout. And either Jessica's stepmom is a former CIA agent or an FBI agent, because it's clear that John Carver has some very not good things planned for her. But she manages to sneak out of there without making a sound. Like, she is tip-top, supreme sneak level 100. Well, that is until she gets pitchforked in the back and ultimately thrown into the industrial oven, because we're just trying to find the most innovative ways to murder people at this point. But now we're here for the big finale, the big feast, some might say, as John Carver is now live streaming them all gathered around the Thanksgiving table. And of course, due to this, the police are able to track down where the cellular signal is coming from. And the reason I told you to remember that shot from earlier where they're all just kind of gathered around this shot right here because, oh boy, is it going to frustrate me later. Well, it's because they reuse the exact same shot later. I'm not kidding when I say this. I know I griped about this a whole lot in my last review of the movie Night Swim. This one isn't as egregious because it is about an hour later, but I have to watch through these movies multiple times so I can figure out what I'm going to talk about, what I want to point out, and upon secondary viewing, I was able to see that, shocker, shocker, it's the same shot. So bad Thanksgiving, bad. And none of it even mattered anyways, because upon finding out where the signal was coming from, it turns out that it was just a cell phone that was live streaming a monitor. It wasn't even live streaming the actual event, which means this was all just a wild goose chase, and they're no closer to catching them than they were 30 minutes ago. But now we begin to see a little bit of an insight as to what John Carver is doing. He's gathering around the majority of the people who were responsible for what happened a year ago at the Right Way. And unfortunately, Evan does not make it, which I am none too surprised about. Evan was kind of a jerk throughout the entirety of this movie, so him dying was kind of expected. But do you remember that ring that was given to Jessica? Well, it turns out that ring also had a miniature knife in it, which Jessica uses to free herself, then slide over to Scuba so that he may also free himself, so that they can mount an escape against John Carver. And they bust out to realize that they're actually at the old John Carver house. Remember, the one that was destroyed at the beginning of the movie? Well, not necessarily destroyed, but vandalized. And so now Jessica runs away, but before she's able to get too far away, John Carver catches up to them and he manages to slice Scuba, and so he's stuck at the house and just kind of left there. But Jessica manages to get away just in time, only for her to, once she's done walking through the forest, find that the sheriff is knocked out behind his car, and she sees a figure going into a warehouse not too far away. But upon going into the warehouse, she sees that the figure was actually Bobby. Oh my god. But at this time, the sheriff's come back. He's regained consciousness and he says that he'll handle it and there's no need for Jessica to worry. Unfortunately though, they are not able to locate Bobby as he somehow managed to slip away. So now Jessica is back in the safety of the same warehouse that they were just in. They didn't even bother taking them all back to the police precinct. They just left them at the warehouse. But she notices on the pants leg of the sheriff are the same stickers that were stuck to her pants leg, which means he has been John Carver this entire time. And so bear with me as I explain this next part to you. All in the time that she has managed to escape the John Carver house, she has randomly wandered to an abandoned warehouse. She gets interviewed by multiple police detective investigators, left there with the sheriff of the town. Not another singular police officer, detective, or anybody stays at the warehouse. She finds out that the sheriff has been the John Carver character this entire time and he's the one that's been killing everyone. And now we get the insight as to why he's been doing this, and the whole reason being that he was having an affair with Amanda from the beginning of the movie, to where the husband, I guess, didn't know about it, and it's super weird that he shows up at their Thanksgiving. We also find out that she was pregnant with his child, so when she died in the Thanksgiving incident, his child also died. So it just gets super confusing here at the end, and they just mash it all together in one big reveal, and you just kind of have to deal with it. It's also shown that Jessica was secretly live streaming the whole thing, which I have no idea when she was able to open up any type of live streaming service on the phone and just secretly start doing it. So everyone knows that it's him now. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And they say that they couldn't find Bobby because they figured that Bobby was the main suspect. He's the one who was doing the John Carver thing. Turns out he never left the warehouse. Obviously they didn't check that hard. What are we doing here? What happened? Why? They said they were looking for this person who they perceived to be this mass murderer. He's still at the place where you just were. He never left, apparently. And we find this out because he throws a hammer in through the window to knock over the sheriff so that Jessica can get out of there for a short amount of time. And of course, the sheriff begins to try to chase them down with his axe, and Bobby and Jessica manage to make it to the tow truck, but the sheriff keeps finding new and creative ways to stop them from leaving the premises, either it being pushing a parade float over to where they get stuck, or tying the cable tie to a giant metal beam, which for some reason I have no idea why the cable tie was down. Don't most tow trucks usually have it rolled up? I guess they just decided to unroll it and leave the whole thing on the ground. But it's fine because Jessica manages to load a musket that just so happens to be in the tow truck. She even loads her charm bracelet with the picture of her mom into it, and she fires it at this giant inflated turkey that's filled with helium, and it manages to create this massive explosion and sending the sheriff up in flames. And it's all happy endings because there's no way anybody could have survived that. The dad survived, Scuba survived, Bobby's fine, Jessica's fine, everybody's fine except for the people that already died. And we just see that now Jessica is living her life with Ryan. No clue what happened to Bobby, although she's still haunted with memories from her past. And that is Thanksgiving. And now, instead of having a nice, golden, crisp turkey, you're having a lukewarm review time. So if any of you have watched any of my previous videos, you know exactly how my rating system works. For those of you who have not seen it, it's very simple. There's 3 main categories: plot, acting, cinema. Each one can get anywhere from 0 to 3. And you may be telling yourself, but that only equals up to 9. Well, that's because I also have a bonus point, or if there's anything I like, or if there's not anything I liked, I can always add the point or any increment in between that. But let's go ahead and jump right on into it. For the plot, I gave it a 1. On the surface, the plot isn't that bad. It takes a massive nosedive in the final 30 minutes of it. It just really tries hard to figure out what it's doing in that last 30 minutes. At the beginning of it, it's odd because everyone's just a terrible person and everyone just seems to be the most you cannot spend any time with any of these people without wanting to blow your brains out. And then just having this absolutely insane Black Friday, Thursday shopping deal, which maybe this is just a thing in Massachusetts, I don't know, but I don't think that people are dying in very many Black Friday incidents. Maybe they did. I know everybody does Amazon nowadays, but it's really, really hard how the beginning of it and the end of it are so just confusing and squashed together and really trying to drive home a point to really get you to think something about it. The middle's fine. Anything in between, it's fine. It works just fine. It's just the beginning and the end kind of leave a lot to be desired, and that's why it's only getting the 1 out of the 3 for me. For acting, I actually gave it a 2.5. Everyone in this movie does a pretty good job. Again, the whole 1 at the beginning and the part at the end, it's just those parts it's not even their fault. I mean, in the beginning, everyone just acts so not normal, but maybe they're just trying to over portray the thought that they're all teens, which a lot of these people are young. All the people that play the high school characters, they're like in their early 20s, except for Scuba. I have tried my hardest, and I 100% mean this. I looked as much as I could to figure out how old Scuba is. His name is Gabriel Davenport. That's the character's name, the actor's name. And I just, for the life of me, cannot find out how old he is. Everyone else is in their early 20s, so they kind of fit the age range, or they're really close to it. But I felt like the acting was good, especially just the micro acting between Ryan and Bobby, how they give off kind of these angsty teen, just frustrated relationship, even when they're not the main focus. I feel like they did a really good job, and I really honestly liked the acting in this movie, and I thought it was good. I thought the acting was good, and that's why it gets a 2.5 for me. For the rough patch of this review, we get to the cinematography. It would have gotten a 1.5, maybe even a 2 for me. It's produced by Sony, so you know it's got a massive budget. It looks nice. It was just fine. The effects were just fine. But due to the fact that upon my second viewing of this, you do end up seeing that they actually reuse this one clip, which is always frustrating. I've said it before, it's fine if it's in like an action scene or it's just kind of thrown in there as something you're not really going to notice. It's not the end of the world if you do that. I will give this one a little bit of leeway because it was an hour apart basically when these two clips were played in correlation to each other. So it's not going to get the 0 that Night Swim got, but I am only going to give it a 0.5. I thought that I just don't like seeing them reuse the same clip. It's just really difficult to watch it, and then it, for lack of a better term, it really kind of ruins the immersion of the movie, because it's like, oh look, they just reused the same clip that they used an hour before, and it's does the world do that? Does the world just replay clips? I guess you can say deja vu, but not everybody gets deja vu whenever it comes to certain incidents. So it just gets bumped down to the 0.5 for me. If I hadn't noticed that clip, that it was reused later on in the movie, it probably would have ended up with a 1.5, maybe even a 2. I mean, it looks nice. It wasn't anything outstanding, but just the reuse of the clip really brought down the score of that. And then for the bonus point, I went ahead and gave it the full bonus point. I thought it was interesting that they tried to make a Thanksgiving themed horror movie. I actually looked and went at the director's IMDb page, and a long time ago he had actually made a Thanksgiving horror movie, and so this was just the big budget version of that. It's very similar if you've ever seen the Terrifier movies, where the director made a short of it eventually, and then it gains a cult following, and so it gets a much bigger budget, and so this follows the same vein as that. And there's another movie, it's probably one of my favorite horror movies. It's called The Last Shift. It was actually remade. I can't remember the name of the other one because I try to block it from my memory, but they just did it so dirty. So sometimes it works out really good, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it worked out pretty well. So for all of you who did not want to add up the score or have a problem with numbers, don't worry, I have a calculator on hand. So for the plot, it got the 1, the acting 2.5, the cinema 0.5, and the bonus point, we're walking out of here with a 5 out of 10, which isn't bad. This is just very much your standard slasher horror movie. It knows what it's going into, it knows what it wants to be. It wants to kind of be this goofy slasher horror film that's based off of Thanksgiving. And like I said, at the beginning and the end are really kind of rough, but the whole middle part is just fine. And throughout the movie, you begin to sympathize with the Jessica character. You begin to sympathize with a few of them, actually. You sympathize with Sheriff, Jessica, Bobby, not really Ryan, but you know, some of the characters you actually hope that they turn out all right, as opposed to Talk to Me, where you care about basically none of the main characters, at least the big main characters. So I feel like it works. You also keep kind of asking yourself, you're like, oh, well, who's the slasher? And that kind of also helps draw you in as well. So I enjoyed watching this movie. I thought it was all right. Like I said, I get a 5 out of 10 for me. That's literally mid. That's literally middle of the road. You can watch it if you want to. You don't have to watch it if you don't. I still think this is better than Talk to Me. But that's not hard. Talk to Me is absolute dog water. It's so bad. And this had to do very little to be able to pass that. So Thanksgiving for me, 5 out of 10. We'll go and look at the IMDb score. It got a 6.4 out of 10. I was still a little bit harsher on it, but I'm usually like that with a lot of the movies that I watch. So it stands true to my rating system. Still better than Talk to Me by far. So if you want to watch it, go watch it. If you're looking for something to do this next Halloween, here you go. Or not Halloween, for Thanksgiving, or Halloween too. Watch it for Halloween, Christmas, Valentine's Day is the day that I'm recording this. Watch it whenever. I don't care. It's all right. You can go watch it. But that is my review of the movie Thanksgiving. Thank you for everyone who stopped by to watch. I'm almost to 500 subscribers. I have a couple ideas of what I would like to do for channel members. I think it'd be really cool if you'd like to see that. Help me get to 500. And I'll be able to implement some of those ideas. But until next time, you can always suggest any movies that you want me to review. You can put them in the comments. You can let me know if you thought this movie was better or worse. Still think it's better than Talk to Me, but you can let me know that in the comments. So once again, thank you all for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed, and until the next one, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.